Hi everyone, it's Erin Bell here, and I'm just putting on the final touches to my Canvas course shells for the fall. I know that you're all veterans of the educational field and you have a ton of experience, but I thought it could be helpful to give you a quick overview of some tips and tricks as you plan your courses for the fall. So one of the first things that I do to plan my fall is that I actually give some of my classes nicknames. This is because I have a lot of the same class as you may as well. I have one, two, I think three versions of Com 1010. So if you just go ahead and click on these three dots here, you can give your course a nickname. For this one, I said session 2 starts on 1019. I just wanted to remind myself that this is a second session course of 1010 that I'm teaching in the fall. You can also see that I've given each one of my course shells a different avatar. I mostly did that when I was teaching face-to-face, so when I came into the room and I turned on my projector, I could quickly go to the class I needed because again, if you have 3 or 4 versions of 1010, I didn't want to struggle. This can be helpful for the students as well because they will have a photo that they kind of associate with your particular class. So this is a pretty easy custom setting that you can do just by clicking on the class. And now I'm on that landing page. I'm just going to go ahead and click on settings right here. And you can see that this is where I set that photo. So if you click on these 3 little dots, you can choose an image, you can upload an image, save it to your hard drive, etc., etc. So I like that. I think it's a cool, neat feature, but here's another quick one that I wanted to show you. We're going to click more options right here. And I actually want my students to be able to comment on announcements. So it's actually defaulted to disable comments. I'm actually going to take that off of there so that if my students want, they can say, whoa, thanks, Dr. Bell, that's really great, or that's helpful information, or where do I find this? So I actually want to have comments on my announcements. So I'm going to set that as well. Now remember, we do have a checklist of everything that is supposed to be set up for our very first class. Obviously, there is that welcome announcement that appears here, and there is some boilerplate information. Please make sure that you change that to reflect your name and your email address. I think that's incredibly important for students, but it's also just our calling card showing that we're professionals. So of course, we're going to add our name here and our email here. But please remember that faculty information also appears a second time, and we want to go ahead and make sure that's customized as well. I've added some information about my email. I don't really have an office phone right now. Obviously, many of us are working from home. You do not need to give your students your home or cellular phone number, but you may want to suggest that you will do Google Hangouts or Meet or Zoom for office hours, and then some of your bio information as well. That again establishes your ethos and credibility as a professor. So a couple of folks asked me about where to find some certain materials about our classes, especially the comm and speech courses. We did include some materials here. This is under Instructor Resources and Instructor Materials. We did go ahead and include some pre-writing assignments. Those can be very helpful for you as you start off this journey. And we also have this really great link here. It's Instructor Resources for engagement. And so this is where you can kind of choose, you can download this, and there are a ton of really great discussions here for you to choose from regarding, they kind of coincide with all the major assignments. So those can be really useful. Now, if I want to add any more content or assignments, obviously I'm going to add right here with a plus sign. You can either add an assignment, new assignment with points, or you can add a discussion. But I want to show you one other important key detail that I use as I'm planning my class. So I've clicked on the diagnostic essay and I'm going to go to edit. I give everything a due date. I think this is super important, and I'm always surprised when I hear that students said they don't know that there's due date for assignments. I think that's a great way of teaching professionalism, but it's also a way of making sure that we get student work in on time. So you can add a due date anywhere you want, and you can also, which I think is cool, add a due date time. Now, for our major assignments, I usually do go ahead and time this out at the default time of 11:59, but I want to show you my discussions for one quick reason. So for my discussion posts, I actually time them out at 8 p.m. and that's pretty easy to do. I made sure to tell my students about this, but Engagement means that we're actually having a conversation with our students, right? That there's a back and forth, a question and answer, a dialogue, just like we'd have in face to face class. And for that reason, I started timing out my discussions at 8 p.m. so I can get in there, I can see what's going on, I can actually talk with the students rather than them submitting something right at 11:59. Because I'll be honest, I'm not that night owl I used to be. I don't always see a discussion post at 11:59 and then I wake up the next day and I cannot comment on it because it's been closed out. So I've told my students about this, but I time mine out at 8 p.m. so that way I'm definitely up until 9 p.m. most nights, let's hope so. And so I can have that ongoing dialogue with them. So you don't have to necessarily time yours out at 8 p.m., but I do think having a due date associated with every discussion, every in-class assignment, everything you're doing is really helpful, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to toggle over here to the calendar. This is available to all students as well as to us. I think this is a super awesome feature of Canvas. It's another reason why I really like this LMS. But as you can see, since I've given everything in my course a due date and a time, it all shows up here in chronological order for the students. It's even color coded, which is super neat. This is my class that I just finished up this summer, and you can see that it was pretty heavy workload actually, but it showed them when everything was due. And I think that's a super awesome feature for students, but for us as well, to kind of plan our day and like, okay, looks like my Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be my busy days. The same thing's kind of neat over here. Now that everything has a due date, I'm just on the main landing page for this class. Now the students can see the due dates here as well. So there's a lot of visual reminders of when things are due. As a student and as an instructor, I think that's really helpful to map things out that way. One last finishing touch that I'm working on for all of my classes is to add dates to my modules. Now, I've already went ahead and updated my assignment summary that's posted here, and it is important that we fill that out as well, so I always have that available. As a student, I would always print this type of information off. I liked to cross off the dates. So I've plugged in all my dates here as well. So this isn't just blank. It does explain when everything is going to be due, the dates for this specific class. It's a Tuesday, Thursday class. But I can also add these dates to my modules. And as I said, I haven't done this quite yet, but if I wanted to, I can just click on these three dots here and I can actually edit what it says in our module. So I can say meets 8:25 and 8:27, and I'm gonna have to cheat and look at my calendar, but I can fill in the rest of the dates. And then if I hit update, obviously I'm gonna fix this in a bit, it will add the dates, because as students, I think module is kind of a new concept for them, so I feel like adding these dates here is really helpful as well. And finally, one last trick about organization, and I have to say Miss Jasmine Dean gave me this idea, so thank you, Jasmine, for that awesome training. I add these text headers here now to kind of like structure my page a little bit. So wow, we have a lot of engagement coming up, but again, this is for a module which lasts over 4 weeks, right? We have weeks 1 and 2, or I'm sorry, over 4 meetings. So it's 2 weeks of class here, so we have quite a bit of engagement. But if you wanted to add a text header like this, it's really easy. You just go to this plus sign right here. And to add a text header, it just says text header. And I could say in class assignment. And I'm going to add that item. And then if I wanted to sort of further distinguish one set of assignments from another, I would just have to make sure that I hit publish for this, because otherwise the students don't see it. So I really like to have a really clean, well-organized page. I'll talk about grades later on, but to me, I think it's really important that everything is super clear to students. I think it's important for them and for us, because then there's never a question of when something was assigned and when it was due. So those are just some of my quick, in a nutshell, tips on Canvas. I don't want this to go any more than 10 minutes, but again, you can email me. I'm ebell10@baker.edu if you want to